been very torn apart, very quiet. It's just everyone is numbed after Sunday morning's experience.
What do they think is going to happen next?
I think everyone is so stunned at the moment. We're preparing now to bury the dead and to pray and hope that those who have been injured will survive.
Could somebody else tell me what they feel like now, what the feeling is in that devastated
Harry
town?
Conlon, representing the Chamber of Commerce. The business people, and Mrs. Key said, are totally numbed with what the long-term effect is. I mean, the aftermath of this is really an unknown quantity.
When you say numbed, like, you can understand that. Is there anything more than that? Is there not a sense of anger as well?
No,
No anger?
Not really. Just grief, I would say. After this is, after the obsequies, I would imagine that there may be anger.
Does anybody else from Enniskillen want to tell me what they,
yes,
what the mood, the feeling is now?
Yes, it's just sadness, I think, basically, and anybody that I've spoken to just seems to wish that they could do something to help in a real way, but everybody seems to be united in their grief, and unbelievable that this type of thing could happen.
I happen to be the president this year of the Chamber of Commerce, and yesterday morning we held a special meeting, and it was unanimous at the town completely closed today. There wasn't a dissident voice.
And has that happened?
That has happened, yes.
So every business, every shop?
Yeah, well, that was in town, and we expect that to be so. All the schools and stuff are completely closed. Is it a mark of respect.
Is the town ever going to recover?
Oh, it will recover, but it will take some time to heal the wounds.
Yes, I would just like to say, Robert, that basically I was so close to the bomb. I was one of the very lucky ones, myself and my wife. But I looked straight across to where the bomb was, and to see the people that I knew so well, and it was on that quiet Sunday morning. They were basically stoned to death with bricks.
Robert?
Yeah, John.
I was interested there to hear reactions that there was no anger in Enniskillen. I'm the Church of Ireland rector, which is the largest Protestant church in the town, and obviously I'm conducting a funeral myself this afternoon. I visited with the dying and the injured. There isn't any anger, and I think the reason there isn't any anger is the fact that anger implies some kind of understanding of a situation. We totally don't understand, you see. The people don't understand why these people, or whoever they are, carry out this atrocity, not even on the security forces, which we don't understand that either, but this is on innocent men, women, and little children.
So John, you're corroborating what everybody here has said, which I, as an outsider, find surprising.
You would find it surprising.
And impressive.
There's no anger.
There isn't anger there.
There's no anger because I think they just don't understand it, why it happens.
Sean, you're a Roman Catholic priest, a Monsignor from Enniskillen. Do you go, this is a correct interpretation of
Yes.
how people feel?
I feel with all the people here present, and I should say that especially among the Catholic community, there's an enormous sense of revulsion. Of revulsion at what has happened.
Among
Catholics? Yes, indeed, in our own community. And also a sense of shame that somehow or another this might appear to have been done in our name. And a feeling of the need to dissociate ourselves from whoever these people were, to draw back from them, and to even to pray today, to show a sign of sympathy with all the people, and indeed with who are burying their dead, and a real sign of repentance, you know.
Sean, there's a lot of Catholics in Enniskillen. But there aren't very many of them from that town here today. I don't think that there may not be one. Okay. But there seems to be, is there fear in the Catholic community of what might happen as a result?
No, I think we know our neighbours well enough. Obviously, it's important that we say what we feel, but there is a far greater sense of revulsion, of horror. I think that's the predominant attitude.
Let me get somebody who is Catholic from Enniskillen.
Eamon Flanagan from Enniskillen. Well, the first thing I would like to do is to offer my condolences to all of those who are bereaved, and to all of those who have suffered these enormous injuries which they have suffered. my wife and I, Rosemary and I, went to visit some of these people who were bereaved last night. And the thing that struck me was the forgiveness, the understanding, the love that they had. I mean, I had a certain amount of shame because these people that are doing these things pretend to be doing this in the name of Ireland, in the name of people such as me. And I mean, they do this without my authority, but yet they attach this blame to us. And I think my wife and I have done our best through the years to stand up and to make our feelings known to the Protestant community, because they are a good community. They're no different from us. My neighbour Ina here has lost her husband away a number of years ago, Ina Keys. She came up this morning with us. We respect her. And that those people can come to me and treat me as they have after what they have lost, I am deeply grateful to them. There is no fear in our community regarding that. We are a very close community. We hope, and I hope, that my community will come together and support the Protestant community in their loss, and that out of this can come something good, that we can turn against these men of evil, because they have been in our community for so long, and some people have supported them in their passivity by not acting, and we have got to come together and defeat these people.
Let me get a reaction from somebody outside of the town now to how the atmosphere is elsewhere. You were, yeah?
My name is Pat Combs, and I live, I'm a Catholic, and I live in North Belfast, so I do. And when you say there's no fear, North Belfast is regarded as the murder triangle, where retaliation takes place on a daily basis, so it does, whenever an atrocity is committed. And I totally agree with what the Father said, and the gentleman at the end, that these people do not do it on behalf of the Catholic religion, so they don't. This isn't a war of religion. They have no mandate whatsoever.
Well, the Catholic bishops of Ireland, of course, have condemned all this in very forthright terms, and so also has the Pope. So speaking for the Catholic hierarchy, Seamus, that's right, Sean, isn't it? That's right, has condemned it quite clearly and unequivocally.
I think it would be important even to spell out what all the bishops of Ireland have said in their statement today. They've simply said that there is no longer any room for any kind of ambivalence in relation to violence, that it's a clear choice between good and evil. It's therefore a sin for a person to belong to an organization which promotes violence, to support it, to encourage others to support it, or even to harbor fugitives or to store arms. In every sense, it's necessary for a Catholic person who belongs to our church or has the name of Catholic to renounce that kind of thing. You cannot belong to the church. That's the bottom line.
And so every Catholic priest should do that without any hesitation, equivocation. Or Sam Foster, you were part of the delegation yesterday that went to see the Prime Minister. We've heard people here saying that perhaps out of this some good can come. How do we stop the bombers? What would you propose? What were you telling the Prime Minister should be done?
Well, first of all, if I may say so, I do offer my sincere sympathy to those who have been bereaved, and my prayers indeed to those who are suffering at present and who are seriously injured, that they will be restored to their true health again. My immediate reaction to the whole situation was that shock, horror, fear, revulsion, grief, and there is anger. I was part of a delegation which went to Westminster yesterday to put over the case that something has to be done to get to grips with the terrorists. They are roaming our streets, they are murdering, they are maiming, and Sunday morning's blast is typical of what we've been living with for a number of years.
So what would you propose, Sam?
My proposals yesterday, one was that the IRA must be taken out with by selective internment. The godfathers must be taken out of society. They cannot be allowed to roam the street free. Some of them are appearing in courts. They are coming out of it by good articulation by their defending counsel. They're laughing their heads off as they walk down the street, free men to commit more foul acts. The second point I have made is also that the Sinn Féin must be proscribed. I, as a local district councillor, am expected to sit round a table and discuss affairs with people who, in fact, and the present chairman of Fermanagh District Council has said that he unequivocally supports the armed struggle And if you call Sunday mornings happening an armed struggle, my goodness, where are we coming, or where have we gone to?
On internment?
We've had internment before and it didn't work. And more laws and more people in jail, that doesn't work either. It's when the people themselves turn away from the violent men. And the violence isn't coming from just the IRA. There was a young man shot yesterday. We don't know who it was. I agree with this man here. There is a lot of fear in the Catholic community when things like this happen.
Are you a Catholic?
I am. And when you say, when the media start homing in on, is there anger? Do you feel anger? That gives the terrorists then the excuse to go out and look and retaliate. And there's great fear in the Catholic community. I have a 19-year-old son myself, and I told him, stay out of areas where you may be a target, because it's no good to talk about anger. We must talk about peace and how we all work together, and forget about anger and extradition and more laws. Let's encourage people away from these organisations, not lock them away.
You've had bombs going off and they're killing people. How do you stop the bombers?
You must stop the bombers by stopping the people and encouraging the people to stop supporting these bombers.
Internment?
Not internment. I would like to speak as a mother of 2 young children, as an eyewitness on Sunday morning. I feel frustration as a mother. What am I bringing my children up to? I feel the words of condemnation no longer mean anything. There has got to be action. My husband was due to lay the wreath on behalf of Fermanagh College. I know that the majority of the students in Fermanagh College, and I have to say that on their behalf, they don't want that. They're disgusted. That's the younger generation. My children are even younger. I'm coming at the moment with their nightmares, and I feel frustration and I want action.
What's the action you want?
I feel it's not for me to say, I don't know.
What do you
I
think
feel
should
frustrated.
But what do you think should be done? You're living with this on a daily basis. What action do you think can be done? What would you like to see?
I feel border security. Border security is not tight enough. I feel extradition the terrorists must be taken from the south and brought up here to be brought to justice. People in Enniskillen, we are a close-knit community, Protestant and Catholic.
Can I ask you what your religion is?
I'm a Protestant.
You're a Protestant, yeah.
But we are so sickened. None of us want this, but we want the terrorists out of our society.
I'm asking what could be done. Rosemary, on internment.
Greater security, more repressive laws will not win the people away from terrorism. And on behalf of the SDLP, first of all, I would like to express my condolences to those who have lost their lives and the injured in this terrible tragedy in Enniskillen. As a Catholic, I have heard Catholics say they are ashamed to be Catholics. I don't feel that. I don't feel that these people who have carried out these crimes can call themselves Catholics or Christians. But greater security, greater laws will not win them away. We need to establish structures in Northern Ireland to which everyone can give their support. We need to establish structures which will win people away from the support for violence which they have exhibited in the past. We need development within the framework of the Anglo-Irish Agreement.
Well, the terrorist is continuing, Robert, because the IRA actually believe that they've got the present government on the run. 2 instances in particular, the killing of Erin Neve in 1979 and the blowing up of the Brighton bomb, have made Mrs. Thatcher shift her policy as far as Northern Ireland is concerned. She's now pursuing an Ulsterisation of security policy instead of maintaining border security using the British Army. She's pursuing an Ulsterisation of politics policy, pushing for devolution and bringing in the South in the Anglo-Irish Agreement. The IRA are quite aware that they have succeeded in breaking the will of Margaret Thatcher as far as terrorism is concerned, and they have every incentive as a result to keep up plopping away until...
So what would you do?
Well, I would like to see Northern Ireland treated in the same way as Scotland and Wales, and in particular, I would like to see our government, Mrs. Thatcher's government, having to put itself to the ballot box in Northern Ireland, having to run candidates, seek support in Northern Ireland elections. We're currently governed by a dictatorship which is not responsive to the Northern Ireland electorate, and that is why terrorism can flourish. We are all excluded from normal British politics. And that creates the grounds for the terrorism that has happened in Fermanagh.
Could I just say that I have to say that I'm very impressed by the reactions of the ordinary people of Enniskillen, Catholic and Protestant, particularly the Protestant people, because of the manner in which they are accepting this horror which has hit their community. and the Christianity, particularly the Christianity which was epitomised for me and for everyone in the world, I think, by Mr. Wilson when he spoke yesterday. But could I just say, I also understand their frustrations, and I understand particularly the young woman at the back who spoke about she wants action. But really, at the end of the day, we have got to realise that the greatest action that can happen against these men who carry out these awful deeds is the action of a united community with a consensus as to how they're being governed. And there is no point in talking about foreign governments and talking about interference. We all on this island need one another. The Taoiseach Prime Minister of the South has made a very strong statement and has made it absolutely clear that there must be full cooperation between the security forces on both sides of the border. And that has been happening.
Is that going to be enough? Let me stop you there. How do you react to all that? That sounds positive and constructive, is it?
That's all very well, but Mrs. Rogers is speaking from the very advantaged position that her party has within the Anglo-Irish setup. The unionist population, the majority of people in the state of Northern Ireland have no say at the moment in the governing of their province. I think it's very important. This is going out nationally in the UK, and I'm still a citizen of the United Kingdom at the moment anyway, I don't know for how long. But the hypocrisy of the British government has got to be pointed out. Earlier on this year, a member of the Fermanagh District Council was not permitted, after coming off the boat in Liverpool, I believe it was, he wasn't permitted to make his way to a meeting, I think it was in North Wales, where he would spew out his particular form of hatred. He was sent back home because the British authorities across the water didn't want him in Great Britain. But he was sent back home to this part of the United Kingdom, where he is daily permitted the freedom of the democratic circle. Mrs. Thatcher will not meet Sinn Féin representatives. Tom King won't sit down with them, yet they expect unionist councillors. As far as I'm concerned, the cancer in our society, before what Mrs. Rogers has called for, and I believe the two communities can live and work together, but two things. Sinn Féin must be got rid of, and the Anglo-Irish Agreement has got rid of. What I would appeal...
When you say got rid of, how do you mean?
By whatever means is possible.
You make it an illegal organisation?
I would ban it, and I would have selective internment along, but you've got to have a political arrangement.
Selective internment, let's explain that. We're going to go... what you believe to be suspected IRA terrorists will be picked up by the security forces and held in custody.
Yes, I believe that...
How many would you apply that to?
The police know who the activists are.
And you think they should be picked up?
And I believe the likes of Jerry Adams, Martin McGuinness and Morrison and the rest should be denied the freedom to speak. The Monsignor has said in a statement this morning, along with all the other bishops, that it is evil, that it is a sin, that it is wrong to be a member of his church and to be a member of an organisation such as Sinn Féin. Will he now give Jerry Adams a direct choice? You either quit that evil, rotten, sinful organisation of Sinn Féin and the IRA, or else you're barred from this church. Will he actually come out as far as that and say that? I don't believe he will.
Monsignor, do you want to respond to that?
Obviously, you know, the choice of a person about the church to go to is their own. It would be extremely difficult for any church to say we bar people. In the Christian faith, it's a free choice of people. But I think what the statement of the bishops is underlining for people is, look, if you choose to be a member of the Catholic Church, this is what you must do. This is the motivation you must have got. It also says to the Catholic Church itself, look, you must disown this kind of conduct. The people who perpetrate this kind of thing, you must disown them. And that, ultimately, in the hearts of people, is the solution to this kind of violence.
Could I just make one point?
Very briefly, because I want to get other people... Go on, yes, but I want to get other people too.
I just want to make the point that action against, again, the men of violence, the only action that will ever rid this community of the men of violence is the action of people rejecting them. And I think that to deny people the chance of rejecting them through the ballot box, now that all the glamour and romance that used to be in the past has been stripped away, and particularly stripped away by what happened in Enniskillen yesterday, it is much more effective to allow the people the opportunity of rejecting them themselves.
Let's put that to Sam.
Let me finish. Than to give them the martyrdom syndrome that they have been prevented by the British government from, that the people have been prevented from voting for them. Much more successful to allow the people themselves to decide.
Sam, there seems to be quite a large number of people who have contributed, want there to be a solution in which the communities live together. Can there be a political settlement? Leaving aside now the kind of security measures you may wish to take, can we get a political settlement to this problem?
There has never been any problem about people living along with each other. But the nationalist community, I've got to say it, have never given their wholehearted support to the structure of this state. We hear Mrs. Rogers repeating there and stating platitudes again about rejecting the violent men. On Fermanagh District Council, the SDLP on 2 occasions have voted to put in a Sinn Féin chairman. They got together again to take the Union flag down from the town hall in Enniskillen. Recently they got together, and 2 of them were school teachers who got together to ensure that British armed forces would not use council property. Now, if the Anglo-Irish agreement, which I reject entirely, was one of the reasons for weaning away support from Sinn Féin. If that's weaning away support from Sinn Féin, that is hypocrisy.
Can there be a political settlement?
Well, first of all, we have to understand where the professionals came from. The professionals from inception have espoused sectarianism from start to finish. The bombing on Sunday was a fine example. But there's been other bombs in Northern Ireland. There's been bombs in Belfast, Le Mans, Bloody Friday. I mean, the list is endless. You know? What we need is the coming together of people, not as Catholic, not as Protestant, but as ordinary people. And one of the ways to do that is to have integration in our education system, starting from the children and working your way up. That has never happened.
Integrated schools?
That's right.
Would our priests go along with that? Howard, would you go along with that?
What I want to say is this. We're here this morning because of what happened on Sunday. There were 11 people were killed, and of those, 6 of them, in fact, were Presbyterians, and the young minister of Enniskillen isn't able to be here this morning because he's arranging their funerals. I spent yesterday in Enniskillen seeking to help him because I know the situation. I was minister there myself for a number of years, and I know Enniskillen well. I know all these people, and it was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life to be meeting with them yesterday and sharing in their grief. And one of the things that couldn't help but amaze me was just the spirit of the folk involved and concerned. And I feel that if there's going to be a way forward, you're going to have to pay attention to the feelings and the attitude of the ordinary common people. The people of Northern Ireland, I feel, just simply have not been listened to. Factional groups have been listened to, but the will of the majority has been systematically ignored over the last number of years.
You're all nodding your head, but I don't understand how that's the case. How is it that all your leaders get voted by large majorities? Let's have a young person.
I think what the man at the back said is about the most important thing that's been said this morning. It's not in our generation that there probably won't be anything done, possibly to stop what's happened. It'll be
in your generation.
Yes, it'll be educating the younger children coming up now, so that perhaps in the next generation, that is when we might find a solution. Extradition and internment and things like that are only secondary measures to cope with the problems that are deep-rooted in everybody's.
But would you support those measures in the short term to deal with the problem that's here and now, whilst at the same time perhaps pursuing the integration that our friend spoke about?
Extradition, yes. Internment, I'm actually too young to actually remember what it was all about and the effects of it. But you have to start at the very bottom and work up, otherwise it's no use.
Robert.
Well, can I say a couple of things, please? First of all, there's been enormous media coverage of this event, and that's quite right because it was a terrible and tragic event. But we in Northern Ireland have to live with this every day in between these huge massacres which occur. Now, there was a gentleman who said that people should acknowledge the institutions of the state. The people of Northern Ireland aren't allowed into the institutions of the state. I want something done. The current government policy in Northern Ireland is wrong, and it has shown itself to be wrong. Now you, Robert, I believe was a Labour MP for Merseyside. Mm-hmm. Now you had some knowledge of sectarianism, or you must have some knowledge of sectarianism. I would like to be able to I would like to be able to change the government of this country. I want to be able to affect the policy. I can't do that. People in Northern Ireland are banned from their own political parties. We're banned from doing anything about the situation we live in. I don't want a future spent in sectarianism.
Let's get this clear, because we're talking to a much larger audience than Northern Ireland. You're not talking about the inability to join political parties in Northern Ireland. You're talking about parties like the Conservatives or Labour Party which exist in...
Non-sectarian, greater parties, non-sectarian parties.
But you haven't got a Labour candidate or a Liberal or a Conservative candidate here. You're denying.
No, I don't want a future in sectarianism. I want a future outside of sectarianism. I want to be in politics that is above sectarianism and is away from sectarianism. I don't want to be governed by Mrs. Thatcher when I can't even put her out of office. I don't want to be in a situation, which is what it's like in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
We can't even vote for our own government, and the government has policies like this, and we have to live in...
So what is being said here, and there's a lot of assent to, you want to get away from church religious-based parties, is that right?
Yes, I do. I brought my children up, 5 of a family up, in the New Lodge Road area. Quite a lot of people know it. I lived there for 18.5 years. I'm now living in Ashfield Gardens. We have a mixed community there, Catholic and Protestant, and every one of us get on very, very well, and as Mr. Wright here says, Catholic and Protestants can live together and will live together as we've done before. I was brought up in it was a Catholic school. Protestants went to it. My whole family before me, my father and all went to it, and I can't see why the people all can't get together again and do the same again.
John, Sean, Church of England, Catholic Church, the major, if you like, protagonist in all this. How do you respond to what people have been saying? That they want a non-religious space, non-sectarian political system, the one that I belong to on the mainland, as it were.
People can have it if they want to.
John first. John. Go on, John. Let John answer first. John answer.
You're not allowed. You're not
Let
allowed.
John answer.
You're not allowed.
We're not allowed.
Yes, John. I tell you to answer. Then you ask me questions.
Yes, John says we can have it if we want it. The point is that if you live,
Now let John answer.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yes. Okay.
What's to stop anybody
setting up as a Conservative candidate and getting votes?
No,
you won't get any votes.
We are banned from joining both the Conservative and Labour parties.
But John's point,
if we did that,
because it's a point that occurs to me and will occur to everybody watching this in England, Scotland and Wales. Well, if you really want to vote Labour, Conservative, Liberal, stand as the party.
No, we wouldn't be endorsed. We would not be endorsed by the parties. Everybody would know that we were frauds, we are just denied the opportunity, even though a recent opinion poll showed that 62% of the Northern Ireland public want the opportunity to be able to engage in normal national politics.
Should they have that opportunity, Sean? Sean, should they have that opportunity?
Surely,
Robert, let me get Sean.
Surely, Robert,
I'm going to come back. Sean?
To join, if it would do any good in the situation, you know...
It would allow politics to develop on a Labour, Conservative, non-sectarian
Rosemary, one at a time. Rosemary?
I am sorry to see this occasion being used as a political discussion. It's getting away from the trauma that we have suffered in Enniskillen. It's getting away from the feelings of those people in Enniskillen who have suffered so much.
What do you mean when you say it's being used as a political occasion?
The media are concentrating on the political developments and what is going to come out of this.
But Rosemary, you're confusing me. I would have thought that the only way in the long term you can have a solution to this problem is a political solution.
Well, I was coming to that. Unfortunately, we are being forced into the situation here and now. The political discussion is obviously going to continue. It's just on the day of the funerals that we hesitate to get into the old squabbles. I had hoped that these deaths in Enniskillen would not be in vain, that these deaths in Enniskillen would turn people away from violence, but more than that, it would bring the two sides of the community together to overcome the barriers that are facing them. But here we have today a lobby, a very extensive lobby it seems to me, for greater involvement in the British Parliament. It's ignoring a substantial body of people in Northern Ireland who want their own institutions. It's ignoring the nationalists.
Who is this? Tell us who the substantial body of people who want their own. You're talking about the Catholic community.
Well, I'm talking mainly about the Catholic community, but I feel that there are unionists also who want their own institutions in Northern Ireland, and we want to build up a community here.
Let Sam
We want to build up a community here to which everybody
I would have to say, Robert, that my opinion is that unfortunately and regrettably it has to be said that maybe the attitudes of people from the minority community, that what took place in Enniskillen was taking place in the past is a residue from that sort of attitude of not accepting or not recognising the state. I would agree with a lot of what has been said here, that I am a British citizen and I should be ruled the same as any Englishman, Scotsman or Welshman. We don't have the opportunity here. There are people interfering with the affairs of the state who are alien to the state. They have no accountability to the electorate whatsoever. I, as a citizen, I'm a social worker by profession. I deal with all people. I am friendly with lots of people. They know my stance. It's not to be vile against them or vilely disposed towards them. But what I'm seeking is real and true citizenship. That's all we want in Northern Ireland. We're not getting it from some people.
Thanks, Sam.
The people of Fermanagh
and the people of Northern Ireland feel that the government doesn't really care for them. And there's one reason that the government doesn't really care for them, and that is because the government of the United Kingdom does not depend on the votes of the people of Northern Ireland. They can ignore us, they can do what they like with us, and they'll not lose a single vote in any of the 17 constituencies in Northern Ireland. And it's about time that the Conservative Party was accountable for its actions in Northern Ireland, along with, by the way, the Labour Party, which...
So you feel that if you actually had Conservative Labour candidates up here, accountable and responsible, they take a much more positive attitude towards the problems of Northern Ireland?
I really think they would be forced to, because the ballot box is...
In the end, though, it comes down, doesn't it, Sean, John, to people, to communities living together. Can the you see, we've had Rosemary talk about one... Let me finish with this. We've had Rosemary say there's one section of the community that perhaps wants its own institutions, doesn't want to join in. Can the communities, the two communities, Sean, first live together?
Yes,
the truest,
hang on, let me ask Sean.
The truest thing that has been said here today is that, and I think the world should know this, that in Enniskillen the communities can live together. I feel as deeply today for my two colleagues in Enniskillen who cannot be with us today. In fact, the Presbyterian Methodist ministers, they are burying their dead. And in a sense, that's the great hope for the future, that ordinary people, especially in those immortal words of Gordon Wilson, those were words of courage, of faith, of forgiveness. And really, it's that kind of leadership is the only way forward in the hearts of people.
Charles, Charles, can the communities live together?
I think that in the last few weeks, several of our churches, several of our leaders have made statements about this whole problem that has emerged today of sectarianism. Unfortunately, many of our loyalties are to secondary loyalties. Our primary loyalty has to be to God himself. We're all his family, we're all his children. And until we learn to live together, there can be no hope. But there is hope. I believe there's hope for this community because basically we are a Christian community. And when we are prepared to accept the truths of the gospel, to love one another, and if we can love one another, and if those who do love one another can let it be seen and reject those who seem to be impelled by this force of hatred, then there's hope.
In reply to this gentleman, he said love one another. I think perhaps I can bring a lot of that to this programme this morning. I myself suffered at the hands of the IRA 11.5 years ago. My husband was a member of the RUC stationed in Enniskillen. He was brutally, cowardly murdered like those people on Sunday morning. He didn't have a chance to turn around and say don't. I was left to rear two young children. They were too young to remember their daddy, and perhaps those people who have spoken this morning can go back home and they can know what it's like to have a full family life. My children, Morris and Alison, never can remember their daddy. He was cruelly murdered by people. Yet, despite this, I tried to remember and trust in the Lord. I tried to rebuild my life. I went back to lecture in the Fermanagh College of Further Education, where the vast majority of my students are Roman Catholics. We do get on very well together. The neighbours in the area where I live are Roman Catholics. My children and their children play together. It doesn't present a problem, but it is those in our society, there are those small number of people in our society who want to do what they did on Sunday morning. I was there as an eyewitness. I saw the flash of light. I saw the building erupt and the huge boulders rolled onto those people below who had no warning whatsoever. My children clutched me closely and said, "Mummy, are you okay? What would happen if we had been there, Mummy?" And we just thank God that we're alive today and able to recall such a tragic and horrific incident.
Could I say, Robert, I know what Anna says is so true, and what her attitude is the attitude of so many people who have suffered in Northern Ireland over the years. And we've had two voices in the last few days in Enniskillen. We've had the voice of hatred and bitterness and the sound of the bomb. We must totally reject that. We've had the voice of suffering, the voice of sanity, the voice of love from people like Anna, Gordon Wilson. And if we don't follow that, there's no hope for our future, there's no hope for our country, and there's no hope for our lovely town of Enniskillen. But we will get together, Sean and I and David Couples and Tom McGowan.
And that's the greatest hope that anybody can have.
Yeah.
See you in the morning.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.